Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R.Keith. I am a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on May 19th, 2021 at approximately 8:36 a.m. PST. Well, things have been going interestingly. So, question for you. Have you taken a look at what's going on around you, about what's going on with your life, and picked anything that you are personally not content with? Okay, that's where we start this. And we've talked about it before a number of times. But one of the big things that I did find is that quite often repeating things helps immensely. Yeah, I know. It's one of those little figures I gotta get around painting. I've already got that on my list for today. Get that out of the way. Already got that on my list for today so that I can get some of that done. What I don't know is exactly which one I'm going to work on. Probably this one here. As a matter of fact, I think that's a good idea. This little chap here is already partially painted. It's time to get started on him. So a little later today. This is what's called a hill giant. Okay. Now, it's simply a very large man, in case you couldn't tell. But I'm going to work on him, and we'll start getting things done on that end. Okay. One of the biggest things that I find is pick whatever you're not content with and start altering it. And that belongs over here where I can actually utilize it right. You know, the nice part about it, again, as you well know, I putter. Okay. I call it puttering because it's lots of different things on the go all at the same time. And while I'm thinking about it, I just add to my list so I can make sure that I get things done. Now, I've already got, I've already got 5 things off my list taken care of. Okay. So I just go through things, make sure I get them one at a time. And yes, I'm a little mobile today, but that's okay. It works well for me. Don't know how well it works for you, but the reality is that you never get anything accomplished if you don't move. Okay, and like I said, if you take a look at the way your world is, and you decide what you're not content with, and you get rid of the things that aren't doing any good for you, okay, the things that you're not content with, what ends up happening is all you're left with is what you're personally happy with. I love this. Junk mail. Totally useless to me. Live in an apartment. There ain't no way I'm going to be selling my house. But when you take a look at things, what is that? Okay. Got to deal with that too. Anyway, like I said, I've got this list beside me. I'm just adding to it so I can check things off while I go. Because if I don't get them checked off, what ends up happening is I get myself lost. Okay. On the plus side, it means I get a fair chunk accomplished. Now, this funny little book here, I didn't write this one, but this one I find more useful than the internet where it comes to finding synonyms. That's an old-fashioned thesaurus. And like I said, I'm a bit of a dinosaur. So my methods work. And they've worked for me for years, and they've worked for a lot of people. And the real catch to it is this. We have to all remember. Well, yes, technically you don't have to, but it might be in your best interest. No matter what walk of life you come from, no matter what religion, what philosophy you follow, no matter your age or your income bracket, you're all starting from exactly the same place that I am. You're starting from right where you are right this moment. Now, since you cannot change the past, okay, and I do have to deal with that, so we will put that down here on the list. Okay, what I'm writing down here is literally a reminder to do a pictographical and temporal display. In other words, show you why, although you can move forward in life, you cannot move backwards. You cannot go back and change something that's already happened. It just doesn't work that way. Okay. Now, there's a lot of philosophies, a lot of belief structure around it that is possible. But let's face it. If it were actually possible, there's a lot of people, a lot of things that have happened in the past that would be, in some ways, really nice to wipe out. You know, many things people claim didn't happen. Okay, and I'll tell you, the people that lived through the things that theoretically did not happen would have been much happier if they hadn't happened. Okay, I can tell you personally, I would love to avoid some of the things I went through. Not the least of which was a pretty severe accident when I was only 12 where I tore my knee apart. I was not happy about that. Okay, and I've been pretty much on a cane ever since. You know, on the plus side, I did not, thankfully, end up with arthritis out of the deal. You know, for me, that was a real plus. And I'm pretty certain anybody that deals with arthritis has the same idea. So, pick one thing about your life that you're not content with. Okay, you don't have to worry, you don't have to know how you'd like your life to change. All you have to know is whether you're happy the way it is. And then identify whatever makes you unhappy. Far easier to figure out what's making you unhappy right this moment than what may make you happy a year down the road. It's a great idea to have plans, to have goals. Okay, and the more solid the plans are, the more you have them laid out, the better off and the easier you will be, and the easier it will be to attain them. Now, that said, you start with whatever you're not content with right this moment. Which is why I've got all this stuff going on. I have no idea why some of this stuff is sitting here, but that's okay. Yeah, I'm looking around for something. And since I don't know where it is, it's going to stay there. Okay, needless to say, today it looks like it's going to be a bit scattered, but that's not surprising. Okay, at least not to me. But take a look at the people you run into, okay, that you meet on the street, and ask yourself one little difference, and one little question. When you're looking at these other people, what is the difference between them and you? Okay, are these people, like, before you say a word to them, okay, before you know anything about them, just looking at their appearance, are they dressed in your eyes better than you? Are they more open? Are they more communicative than you? Are they treating people around them better than you treat people? Okay, these are things that you may not be content with. Okay. And if they're things that you're not content with, then they're things to sort of take a look at and say, okay, how can I alter this? You know, what will work for me? Okay, always when you're looking at striving to change something in your life that you're not content with, always talk to somebody that has done so successfully. The example I've always given, at least as far as I can recall, is if being successful for you means having $1 million in the bank, okay, talk to somebody that has $1 million in the bank. Find out how they did it. You know, talking to your parents, I absolutely encourage. But if they don't have $1 million in the bank, they don't know how to get there. And therefore, they may not have the information you're looking for. Okay. Like I know this coming month here, we are in May right now, so likely in June, once I get a couple of other things sorted around, I am likely going to go back, and for the second time this year, which is a real stretch on my part, I intend on going back and getting my hair cut again. Because I'm trying to tidy this mess up. But this is only going to happen if I do something with it. You can't do it for me. Okay. I have been making phenomenal headway where it comes to, and when I say I in this case, both myself and my proofreader have been doing a phenomenal job in getting the sequel to the Birth of the Wolfpack done. This here, is already in print, obviously. That's the Birth of the Wolfpack. The sequel to this one is we're about 1/10 of the way through the proofreading side of it. The idea is by this fall to have, before the end of this year, to have that one, the sequel, in print. Okay, and then we'll figure out where it goes from there. Again, it boils down to getting a goal in place. Okay, pick a goal, break it down into 15-minute, half-hour jobs. Where it comes to proofreading, because it's a bigger issue, I take a look at it from the standpoint of, okay, I desire to get X number of pages done in a day. So far, I've been exceeding that, usually by almost double, which is good, because you always when you lay out a goal, lay it out on the longest it's likely to take you. Okay, if you get it done faster, that's great. Okay, I mean, for instance, I take a look at when I'm working on my writing. Okay, I've got a number of little storylines that have to go together. This book here contains a staggering number of little storylines that I've been writing. I write them in hand first, then move them to the computer. Okay, that way I can combine them all. And this is just my method. Now understand, in my case, I have to be working on... Okay, let's back that up a fraction. For me, success where it comes to these videos is to get them to go global. What I don't know, and it will take time to figure it out. Okay, one of the things that I do know is I can't see the way that I'm doing it. I don't know if it's exciting for people. I don't know if that's what people are looking for. For me, it boils down to this. These are the tools I'm using. They work for me, and they've worked for a lot of other people. So if it helps even one person actually get things moving in the right direction, get their life sorted around, and especially where it comes to these great big dreams people have. Now, this funny little novel, the storyline to it, the original storyline on this, came from when I was in grade 10. I am now 58 years old. So we are talking, 42 years later, I think. Yeah. 42 years after I wrote the original storyline. Okay, I've got the first book out. The second one I'm hoping to get out by the end of this year, and I'm working on the other 12 and the other 10 in the series all at the same time. Okay, so I'm hoping to pick up pace. As I get them wrapped up, I'll get them moved out. Okay, but I have a number of different storylines all at the same time. This little thing here is another one of my successes. This is a children's book. It's called Mr. Dreamcatcher. And it's about literally what I just said, what it says. Okay. Okay, and that's another one that I've got. And if you look at the list below this video, you'll find a number of different publications I've already got in print that can only be ordered through me at this point. What did I do? Oh, it's up front. Okay. They can only be ordered through me at this point, but there's a lot of contact points below this video. Skype, YouTube, obviously YouTube, I'm right here, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook. You can find me on all of them. Okay. If you've got a question from literally any venue. Okay. The venues I'm not good at, I am not a trained scientist. I am not a trained researcher. Okay, the information I have on UFOs, on alien technology, is from first-hand information. It's not from researching what other people have written about. And many of the topics that people talk about, many of these stories that are out there, I get asked about, and I'm like, I've never read any of it, so I'm usually a little behind schedule on what the going theory is. Because I don't do the research. I simply live my life. But I can tell you that I have found there's a lot that I've seen. And the biggest thing that I've got appointed that I really encourage people to realize is that with the way the world is right now, once COVID is all over with, it is time, well, right now it is time, never mind waiting until it's all over with. do your best not to let the world go back to the way it was. Because the way it was propagated fear, it promoted fear, it promoted jealousy, it promoted anger. There's a whole lot of difference. It promoted prejudice. This is not the world that we desire to put back together. This is not the way the world was supposed to run. Okay, although it is the way that people have been brought up to believe. Which is why, where it comes to education. Now, I heard somebody tell me the other day that where it comes to education up here, the schools aren't even adding into the regular curriculum. Here is the basics in English, the basics in math. Now, these are two fundamental skills in any country, in any society. You've got to be able to read whatever language is there. You've got to be able to speak it properly, and you've got to be able to do basic mathematics in order to function. Okay. Now, the reality of the whole 9 yards is this. We have to have politicians to run the cities. Okay, to run the civilization. But before we jump on that too terribly far, just remember, in your household, you're a politician yourself. You make up the rules. You make up the punishments if the rules aren't followed. That makes you a politician. Okay. So every one of the politicians out there, yourself included, have to make certain it's imperative that you remember to make the rules that you're making, make them apply to everybody, regardless of where they sit. Okay. Now, there are certain responsibilities, like, for instance, don't give a 2-year-old the responsibility of washing the dishes. You can bet your bottom dollar they're not going to be able to do it well. Okay. At least not in all likelihood. Now, there are exceptions to every rule. Okay. So we have to have politicians because they are the ones that lay out rules to find a comfortable medium between different people's outlook. Okay, but the reality is if the laws are not equally distributed, if they do not apply to everybody, society will fracture because the people that are feeling like they're being shorted are going to retaliate, and you will end up with society breaking into a second part. Okay, if that second part does not have rules that are equally distributed, that don't apply to everybody, society itself will fracture again. Net result, we have today's world. All kinds of different groups of people, all claiming to have rights to do this, that, and the other thing, and to be justifiably in better position and treated better than others. Now, to be clear, every single living entity on this planet deserves the same respect. Now, some things, there are certain things that go with the territory. Absolutely, respect the trees. And what I mean by that is treat them properly. Don't go along just breaking their limbs off because you can. Okay. Certainly, climb on them. That's one of the things that they're good for. That's one of the things that they actually enjoy. I know that sounds weird. But they enjoy interacting with people if you're not deliberately hurting them. Okay. Now, then that's a very big difference between humans. Humans do not enjoy people climbing on them unless you happen to be a parent and you got a little munchkin that's hyperactive. Then it can be fun. Okay. But make sure your laws are applying to everybody. Where it comes to the spiritual side of things. Okay. Now, if you believe that whatever your spiritual guideline is, whatever you believe, if you believe that your creator or your evolutionary guide created everything, then understand that means they also created every viewpoint, every religion out there, and therefore they are all on equal footing. Okay, none were created more. That was really poor English. It nearly came out. I almost said none were created more better, which needless to say, that's not good. Every religion, every spiritual path has it has merit to it. Some have taken the merits in certain areas that seem to be a lot stronger, a lot more, embedded in the religion. We are apparently stumbling over our words. This is why I don't read my own work out loud. Okay. If you believe that whoever your God is, whoever your spiritual creator is, whoever your spiritual guide is, if you believe they created everything, understand that means they created everything. They created all good, all evil. They created all religions, all belief structures. Okay. And then of course, where I come from, he gave us absolute free will. Okay, and like I discussed probably a week or so back, I discussed the issue of freedom of choice versus fate. Okay, now if you've got an idea of what you're not content with, today is the day to start shifting it, to start altering it. Okay, and by doing that, you will find that you get things organized a lot better and feel a lot more productive. Okay, than if you don't. And the reason I say that is this. If you've got a list, okay, of the things that you desire to get done. By the way, those are just receipts I'm moving over there so I can get to them afterwards. If you've got a list of things that you desire to get done, and you check them off as you go, what you'll find by the end of the day is you've got a whole pile of them sorted out, a pile of things checked off, you can look at and go, gee, I actually got a lot done today. Which I don't know about you, but that always feels better to me. If things are getting accomplished, then it's a whole lot easier. It feels a lot better than if you get absolutely nothing done. Have you ever had a day where you sat still and basically you vegged out on TV, and then you got to the end of the day and go, I just didn't get anything accomplished? Okay, now you can blame whatever you will. Okay, you can blame the TV because the programming had your attention, or whatever you choose. But the reality of it is, you're the one that made the decision not to move. Okay, and that is ultimately what you have to look at. Okay, so take a look at that side of it, and really start making things work. Okay, one step at a time is all you really have to worry about. Just one at a time. But by doing that one step at a time, you'll find things come together a whole lot easier. And yes, as you can tell, I've got a whole lot of junk mail that ended up on my desk that I didn't actually get to. I just decided that sitting there staring at the window at the same time, or staring at the screen, and not getting anything accomplished, wasn't working well. So, I figured, what the heck, I might as well tidy this up while I'm sitting here. Like I said, I don't do the sit still and do nothing thing very well. Net result, right now, I've added, since I sat down, I've added 7 more things to my list since I started doing this recording. Now, they're little things, okay, and I'm not going to do them until after I get off the video. But I encourage you, reach out to the people around you. The world is starting to open up again. Okay. Now, don't get me wrong. The COVID restrictions still hold true. But I've noticed that people are looking forward. They're doing a little bit more in the way of reaching out, in the way, whether it's by video or whether it's by, reaching out to somebody when you're walking in the park. Everybody in this world essentially is going through the same thing. We're all having fun trying to figure things out. Okay, trying to make things happen. But it's going to take every single one of us. Now, I'm debating which way to go tomorrow, but I do have to get an idea in mind. Okay, Now, I've been dealing with the consulting side of things on my own since I was 10. And yeah, I realized, what could you know when you were 10? Well, apparently a fair chunk, since I started working with people with their relationships. My first introduction to it was dealing with a young lass in her late teens, round about the 16, 17 year mark. Okay. And the way that went down is, after I dealt with her, word got around what I had done, what I had pointed out. And that result, I had people lined up at recess, lunch, before school, and after school to talk to me. Now, that sounds really hokey, considering I was only 10 at the time. But that went on for years. And when I went back to my 30-year grad reunion, it turned out the first guy I ran into there, he just looked at me and he goes, "Weren't you one of the counselors?" And I looked at him, I chuckled, I went, "No, I was actually a student. I just did more work than the two counselors combined." Which, sad to say, is a very simple reason for it. It had nothing to do with the counselor's qualifications, in all fairness. It had to do with the fact that kids will not talk to adults on the whole. They just don't. And this has been the way it's been. I don't know if it's that way for you personally, or if it's that way for your kids, but I know when I was growing up, that was very much the case. The reality is, if we eliminate the negative things in our own life, if you turn around, identify what you're not content with. Like, for instance, I wasn't content with the fact I had all these odds and ends that were on my desk that were just completely scattered. Okay, and I figured that's not working well for me. I keep these because if my system goes offline, these crackers are really necessary. But that works for me. That's why I've got them there. Put those up there where I can find them. Okay. Now, the nice part about it, when you're dealing with things, okay, is if you eliminate the things out of your life that you're not content with, all you'll be left with is what you are content with. And that, in and of itself, will make it easier for you to deal with the people around you. I do strongly, much as I will happily tell you, well, no religion is better than the next. Okay, they really aren't. If you look at them all, they're all essentially teaching the same thing. But I strongly encourage you to find a group of people, be it a mainstream religion, be it a so-called New Age religion, doesn't matter. Find a group of people that have similar mindsets that are following karmic law. Be true to yourself. Do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. Energy out, energy in. By doing that, if you find people that fall into that category, okay, then you're going to be ultimately helping to put and make this world a better place for everybody. The only times that I worry about who people decide to follow is if you're following a so-called spiritual leader that is telling you that through him you can have all this peace, and yet he tells you give him or her all of your material possessions, because they're the root of all evil. Give them to that person, and then you find out that their actual retreat is armed and fenced in. This may not be the best path to walk down. Okay, because I don't know about you, I don't handle the cage thing very well, and I certainly don't handle the vertical bar scene. So when you take a look at that aspect, okay, if they are telling you anything at all about one group of people is of less value than the next, okay, they're leading you down a shadowed path. Okay, now I've seen this thing about, of all kinds of different people saying this matters, that matters, and it does. But the thing we have to realize is all life, plant, animal, people, other races, all of it matters. Okay, how you treat various different things, how you treat, like there are people that are seen as being a little weird because they talk to their plants. Well, if you think it's weird talking to your plants, you should see what happens when your plants start talking back. I used to have a what is called a croton. which is a plant. But the thing was a coffee addict. Okay, and if you've got plants, and you know different plants have their own personalities. Okay, some of them are just hilarious. Okay, same as animals. Okay, all things have value. Every single one of them. There's not a one that has more value or less value than you yourself. Okay, hence why I've got a sign. You can see just, yeah, that's going to help. We'll try English. On the one side of the screen, you'll see a little wooden sign. That thing is actually hand burned. Okay, and what it says is, I am worth it. Keep that in mind for yourself. I strongly recommend you put that sign up on your fridge where you can see it on a regular basis to help take your viewpoint of yourself and put it where it's best suited. Remember, you're not better than anybody else. You're not worth of less value than anybody else. Your pocketbook may well be different, but in the end, the pocketbook won't matter. Okay. And I mean, there's a lot of ways of looking at that, but the reality is, if you've got a whole pile of dollars, you got a whole pile of coins. Ultimately, it's the same thing as having a whole pile of cornmeal. Okay, because cornmeal at one point, herbs and what have you used to be seen as a barter system. If you had a lot of it, yeah, you could buy more things. But did it make it any more valuable than the person that has a hammer and can build a house? Okay, my personal opinion is every skill has value. Okay, and what I would love to see happen is people start getting along, start actually noticing the strengths that each other have. Okay, and the similarities they have to yourself, and start working on those. Now, with this in mind, we've run a little longer than normal, so hopefully we get a thumbs up. Give us a thumbs up. Subscribe to our channel. Okay, because there's a lot of videos that are out there that we've put out. Okay, and share the daylights out of it. And we will talk again tomorrow. Until then, take care of yourselves and each other, and for pity's sakes, stay positive.